come and get them and bring me the money
Yeah.
2 days later.
Wow.
And I just did it from home because I had 3 children at home,
Yeah.
and they were good pies. I was a good pie
I'm like
maker.
butternut squash pie sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I couldn't even like I didn't even know that's a thing.
yeah. It's like the VSOP of sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
It would be like top shelf, best
Mm,
ever.
I get why he loves pie.
Yeah.
So
So when I met Wayman, the first time I met him, he opened the trunk and he had a slice of bean pie in his trunk.
and it's strong.
And
Ready for you?
no, I
Oh.
mean, it was like something he traveled with.
Oh
And he had a pool cue.
God.
And then once I made him, when I decided I liked him, I made him ginger beer. Then he would have ginger beer, a slice of pie in his
Wow.
trunk.
Can I get can I get somebody in the chat to tell us what the audio is like? If the audio sounds good, this is so you all can get an idea of what the
Okay.
view is. Don't worry, keep talking.
All
So
right. So anyway, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
So ginger beer is still a family
I remember
favorite.
when you made it. Remember when we were at the fire,
Hmm.
and it was so good.
Yeah. And that's on the original Jamaican recipe with a 3-day ferment.
Oh
But
wow.
most of the time we don't get 3 full days.
Right.
People drink it up.
Yeah, it's like we had this. We had to do that again. That was so delicious.
Yeah.
get an audio check when we can. I can actually turn
So we'll
this up.
trade recipes.
Right. I love it though. Like that I still think about when I came upstairs and you made the berry sauce. And I was like, this is
Oh, the warm
the
berries.
warm beer. Like so simple, but literally just
What did I put it on? What were we
you
doing?
remember you the key lime?
Oh,
And I was
yes.
like, I don't eat and then I ate it and I was like, can I actually have that other slice? Because it was so good. I was like, and your mom had it so like it's like so interesting like how aligned y'all are with like even like food is so like creative and beautiful like the simple things like when he makes his food I'm always like taking pictures because to him he's just like oh I'm cooking but I'm like this is beautiful like with the colors and
It's
everything.
so the truth of our reality.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
like, wouldn't wouldn't you wouldn't you find the person who's healing you attractive? The food is healing us.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like
Can someone let me know if the audio is okay in the chat? I'm gonna count to 10 and share me if you can hear okay. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Audio is great. Thank
oh,
you.
good. Okay.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so this is just monitor that as needed. Looks like audio is good. We're here with Miss Lauta, Lauta of the Sun. We have Aria here and I'm Ahad. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. You all can still feel free to continue.
The idea of having story time, family story time,
Yeah.
I really love that this is being memorialized.
Mhm. No, for real.
Yes, I
Yeah.
really love this. I have 9 grandchildren,
Wow.
with blended families and
Yeah.
actual grandchildren. So I love that we have these stories, these family stories
Mhm.
memorialized because with 9 children of different ages, some are 4, some are 6, some
Yeah.
are 21,
Right.
that this can be an opportunity to have this shared.
Forever.
Yes,
Yes, it
I hope
is.
that this will be the case.
Yeah, it will be.
So we like that
Beautiful.
we're doing family story time.
Right,
I
exactly.
love it.
That's actually exactly what the plan is for tonight's
Perfect.
live. We're doing a little campaign to allow everyone to be able to become more familiar and close to uh, the people that are um, the people and person that are the main inspiration for what all the work of the sun does. And I want to kind of create an environment where everyone can feel a part of the family. So, in order to do that, I'd like you all to be able to become familiar with us a little more, familiar with some of the dynamics of the Sun, but also familiar with the history of how things got started. And hopefully we get to see ourselves in each other's experiences and share in the elevation. The name of this show that we're going to start doing is called High Frequency Living. And the real inspiration behind that is that we want to elevate our uh, the frequency or the experience from our daily lives. And in order to do that, we feel like we want to bridge the gap between some of the concepts and principles that we're learning and how they apply and what they look like in every day and how we navigate real life scenarios, situations, and experiences that we all have. And in my mind, who better to hear some real life experiences and situations from than Miss Laota, who we all are interested in hearing her guidance and wisdom. So I'd like to hear and pursue some of the things that she's been through and how she navigated herself through them, what she's learned from them over the course of time. So that's really what you all can expect from this lane of conversation. We are going to start doing this every Saturday around 7 p.m. And I expect that it's going to be like a journey. It's going to be like an opportunity for us to all to kind of have a warm, cozy meetup and just um, explore what's relevant, explore some of our past, some of our experiences, some of our current experiences right now. And then me and Arya, we're so lucky to be so close. So let everybody know. I'm gonna just tell you right now, Miss Lolta is my mom. So I have a unique perspective, and I also have a unique appreciation for who she is and what she does. And I'm hoping that you all get to experience some of what I experience and see and know from my lifetime of being her son. I'm hoping that you all get some of that perspective too, along with the the teaching that we get, along with the counseling that we get when we're a client, along with when you're a student of the Sun, some of the other official ways you learn as well. I'm hoping you all can get a little of the mother role energy like I get, like I've been blessed to have for my whole lifetime. So that's kind of the vibe. Hopefully we all are warming up to being like family over the course of this journey, starting this Saturday and then continuing every Saturday from this point forward. You good with this? You good with kind of talking about some of the past, some history?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely good with it.
It's so funny. We have a comment, Madame Mystique Noir. She goes, "Oh, family is important to me." She goes, "Family is so important to me. I love that y'all are doing this."
So
Yay.
glad. I thought that everyone would appreciate this attempt to connect everyone and for us all to become a little closer, even though we're all over the world. But we all can kind of lock in as some versions of an extended family. Now, I will share this. I'm going to talk about it a little more later. However, this this new show, this new lane of conversation is being supported by Inlakesh Studio One. So Inlakesh Studio One is a tight, like real tight affiliate of the Sun. And Inlakesh Studio One has offerings that are in support of and affiliated with the of the Sun work. So I'm gonna kind of explore a couple of the things, the primary things that I'd love for people to try with Inlakesh Studio in a little while. However, I want to make sure everyone knows that when you mess with Of the Sun, Inlakesh Studio, we're right there, right affiliated. And when you work with Inlakesh Studio, Of the Sun co-signs, stamps the work that you do with Inlakesh Studio. So be ready for more of an extended experience through family and through affiliates that work close with Of the Sun like that too. So, and we'll talk about a little bit of like the call for the truth cards and things in a little while as well. But
I'd like to
yeah,
interject something. Inlakesh Studio One was the very first franchise that of the Sun had, and is supported over many years with diligent and enthusiasm in learning and moving forward into the greater understanding of how to be of service, and has found ways to do things for free and to do things where there is a benefit, and the law of reciprocity is in play, where you give, you get, but also being of service. So I'm thrilled to have Inlakesh Studio One, the very first franchise we ever had.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're kicking us off, getting us, supporting us in this first kickoff of a new show and new iteration of what we're doing in a media space. So this is what I think. Think that in order to, although we know where we're at now, we know that we have some interest and some real love for Of the Sun and the work that's being done with Of the Sun. I'd like to find out or explore and share more of what inspired or what kicked off this whole direction for you in your life. Like what was some of the flashpoints or one of the pivotal moments that kicked you into the wellness space, and then eventually going from wellness into energy work, into healing, into clearing, and etc. from there. But tell us about something that really, or one of the points in life that was like a flashpoint moment or a turning point moment that really kickstarted you in this direction.
I will be happy to do that, but I think I need to give you a little bit about where I came from.
Let's go.
So I was born in Chicago, on the west side of Chicago, in an area called Lawndale, and it was then already what would be considered a ghetto or a slum or a depressed area. However, I was unaware, because there was, when you live in an experience, it's only when people come in from outside that you get labels. I knew there was a playground across the street, and I knew that if anything happened to people, we had Campbell soup to give them, and I thought that was how life was until much later. So I am the daughter of a Chicago policeman, and that was what my father did. My mother taught various levels of how to sew, crochet, embroider, knit, all the make rugs. She taught that at the local park district. So I learned all those things as a very young child. So I learned how to work with my hands, and I was aware that, and this is very important, that I could make something happen with a piece of thread or with a needle. I was making my own mittens and doing those things. I think this is really relevant to uh, who I have become, and also to all of us who are raising children. It's very relevant that they can do something that contributes to whatever is going on. So if it's snowing outside, and they can make gloves, or if they're hungry and they can be in the kitchen. And so that these are concepts I want to bring a point to, because I think there was nothing mystical about my upbringing. I didn't have any. I didn't have any gifts. I wasn't raised by people who saw into the future, and it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. But I think this one thing that we can all do has really helped me find my power, is this idea of, there were times in my life where I didn't have money. I really looked at the curtains and made myself a dress. I'm like, those curtains will make a really nice outfit. And it was.
Struggle was real. Jesus.
Well, and the reality is, it's so much less of a struggle if you have the concept that something could be something.
Yeah.
You know, when you're without any thought, it's like it's just a curtain and don't have nothing to do with your wardrobe. That's a different space than the space I was brought up in.
Hmm.
So everything could have dual purpose, and everything could do something else, and I could interact with it at whatever level of matriculation and understanding I had. So I say that to say that all of us have been taught how to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so in my family, because I'm from a family of many, many, many girls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that happened was is that I had the job of ironing, and they never switched the jobs.
It's stuck.
So I can iron up a storm, but I couldn't really make a meal.
Right.
That's so funny.
So, and then my default mode was for punishment, I'd have to get a toothbrush and scrub the baseboards.
Yeah.
So that was my default.
Yeah.
So I could either iron or I could
So
scrub.
baseboards, yeah. Good loads or bad loads, or depending on what you did. Yeah. You was a lucky girl. I gotta tell you. Jeez.
So I say that to say that that's foundationally where it came from. My parents were not a good frequency match.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mother was from North Carolina, raised on a farm, and she did all the things that farm people did. She ate pickled pig feet and she gave us oatmeal, and I had a bologna sandwich. She didn't change things much. So for
Right.
12 years, I had a bologna sandwich every day
Yeah.
on white bread.
Right.
And oatmeal every morning or cream of wheat. And so it's amazing I'm alive.
Yeah. Right.
It's amazing that I managed to still be here. And that is the environment from which I came with very little understanding of social things.
Okay, real quick. Is it TMI for you to say your age, or you
No,
good with that? Yeah, share with everybody because nobody
I,
really knows.
when I'm recently turned 71, and I think everybody should aim for at least that.
Yeah.
You know, and having made it is a victory. And
Mhm.
I feel that way, so I'm fine with waving that flag.
Yeah, exactly right.
And when
Yeah.
I tell y'all the skin, I'm like, we're gonna have to have like a little slumber party vibes too, because the skin is tea, is popping.
So this history is a long time ago. I was educated in private Catholic schools in the neighborhood I came from. I left home at 16 because my mother went to help my sister in another state, and I went to live with my father, which was a
Wow.
real, um, a very a break in my understandings. As my mother, as I said, was from a farm where my father was a health person.
Mm-hmm.
So in his house, and I've told you this story before, he would get a head of iceberg lettuce and he'd cut it in 4 pieces and everybody would get a chunk, you know, and he would boil rice and he would have broiled chicken and with no seasoning, and he was
Yeah.
making his own yogurt. And so I got that aspect from my dad when I went to live with him, and that didn't last very long. But
Yeah.
at any rate, so I have the juxtaposition of the basic Southern uh, people who live in this country, and then I had a father who had educated himself into health by being in the Marines, and so he had taught himself what he was going to do for health. And so that's the most foundational thing I can tell you about how I have turned out to be who I am. So after school, after I went to college and I didn't graduate, I stayed 3 years and then I became a model, and it paid better than school, so I did that instead. And went on to do other things and work for big corporate 500 companies and moved into management and then senior management. And during that time, right before that, actually, I met Ahat's father, and he was everything I remembered asking for when I was 10. So there used to be these books called, they were like mystery novels for children, for adolescent children. And it was Sherlock Holmes, and then there were some that were um, other mystery books for children. And I would read the books, and I wanted to walk down the streets of Paris. I wanted to be in the places. I wanted to be in England. And I said to myself, and I can remember very distinctly at 10 years old, I'm going to do this. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to live there. I'm going to go to Paris. I'm going to live in these places. And then I read there were other books, and they were about Africans coming over to America and being enslaved and where they came from. And I wanted to go see those places. And so it worked out that I met someone who was an international traveler, who had been around the world many times, who was a great deal older than I was. And it was like everything, I hadn't even thought about it between 10 and then when we were eventually married, when I think I was 25, I didn't really think about those things, but it was there planted into me as I had read all these mystery novels for adolescent girls. And um, when I met him, it seemed inevitable.
Right.
That it was just going to be the life I was going to lead. And everyone else had been just biding time to get to that situation. And before we married, I traveled to Africa with him on a couple of occasions. And twice he invited me in different years in the 80s to African countries that were conveniently overthrown as soon as I got there. Because they have a tradition of overthrowing governments on New Year's Eve. So I arrived in Monrovia in Liberia 2 days before New Year's Eve, and they overthrew the government on New Year's Eve. So I was, and the telecommunication center was out. I was there for a month trying to get back. Eventually, eventually I got back, and a couple of years later, he was in Africa again doing import export business, and he says, the government's inviting us over. Can you get a leave of absence over the holidays and come for my job, my corporate job, and come for the party? And I had sequins, and so I went, and they overthrew the government again, which I now understand was my training for this day.
Yeah.
I am trained for what we are doing and experiencing right now. I can see the signs. It was presented to me before. I've been able to see for decades what's coming because I have already been in that
Right.
in
So
other places.
when did you first have to start actively working with wellness or health, or what got you into the actual work of being in health and wellness, or
Well,
yeah, what
it took quite a bit to get myself healthy back to the States
okay.
because people had machine guns and what have you. But I did come back, and I had two other children. I had a set of twins that are 8 years older than Ahad is. And we started a pretty traditional suburban lifestyle. However, the marriage wasn't going well.
Mhm.
And I realized, even though I was not so young, I realized that I was so immature that I really wanted to give all my power to someone else to do things. I really wanted to be like, you make stuff happen. Like, I've got the children, I've got my career. Like, I have this expectation that you're going to do everything. And that's a burden that we wouldn't want to give our children. We wouldn't want every woman who comes along to burden our sons with that, but I had done that.
Yeah.
It's like, you're in charge of my happiness. You're in charge of my desires. It's up to you to make sure that my happiness is kept at the right frequency. So that wasn't working well.
Yeah.
And it didn't work well, mostly because it was a very traditional understanding that we have in the West. And I had lived other places, and I knew there were other understandings to be had. However, I was very stuck in what my upbringing had shown me. And my parents had divorced when I was 3. So I was also a product of the generational experience. So by the time that I was 3, I was divorced.
Wow.
It was exactly the same thing. However, we were in the middle of a divorce when I became pregnant with Ahad, which is something that many people go through. There's this deciding, and then this not keeping your word to yourself, and this backsliding that sometimes produces beautiful children.
Yeah.
So because of all of the emotion during that time and the disruption in our relationship, I was very distracted emotionally from having a baby. And so when Ahad came, he was so beautiful and so perfect. And within 3 months, he was very, very, very sick. And he couldn't nurse. When he nursed, his face would become so inflamed. I clearly could see I was poisoning him. When I looked at the formulas were the first thing ingredient was soy and then sugar. So I didn't know a lot about nutrition, but I knew soy was a problem.
Right.
And I knew sugar was a problem, even though I didn't know a lot. So I took Ahad to doctors, and they gave him steroids. And the steroids then made him have rickets. So then his bones started not to work. So he was, the doctors didn't seem to know what was going on. He was scratching himself bloody in his crib at night. I didn't know what was happening. I thought he was allergic to food. I later understood that the arrangement that we had made before he was born was that I would pay attention and be his mother, not be in the middle of a divorce, not be distracted by something that had already essentially ended. And so he was the uh, unintended results of my unwillingness to focus on his well-being. And then I took him to people who didn't care, doctors, and situations where he got worse and worse and worse. And he eventually had gotten so thin and he couldn't take formula. There wasn't anything. So I started to make my own formula.
Wow.
And I had read how to do that, and from using beans and skimming off, like cooking the beans for many hours, then skimming off the juice and then straining it. And he was managed to keep that down. And then later, when most children have, something in their bottle, he would have vegetable broth in his bottle because he couldn't tolerate anything. We could see it immediately. He would become inflamed. And what happened was I became who I am. That process pressed me into wanting to save my own child. And but it wasn't so much that I wanted to be of service in the beginning. I wanted to keep the other ones from killing him.
Right.
I was more like, no, I'm not letting you give him steroids. No, I'm not going to put him on formula. I can see that he can't breathe. He can't cough. He's scratching himself. This is not working. So it was more this idea of, I'm not going to let you kill him.
Right.
And then the realization that, okay, now, so who do you go to? So then it turned to, what did people do 1,000,000 years ago? What did they do 6,000 years ago? What did they do 2,000 years ago? They figured it out. So I started to read everything. I studied Dr. Sebi. I studied every healer. I studied about wheatgrass. I studied everything I could get my hands on relating to food and what to do. And what I really found was that, of course, we need real food and not pharmaceuticals, but what he needed was my full attention.
Yeah.
And so Ahat began to heal. And by the time we had divorced, I was looking like a normal child at a normal weight. And he had lost a lot of his melanin. So his color hadn't come in appropriately. And of course, for melanated people, the color is not only the magic, but it's the power.
Right.
So he started to gain color when he was about 4. And so I knew that he was coming back and that he would live.
Yeah.
Once I could see that the color had come back in. But what the bigger lesson was, I recognized that I had done it. That I had, because I didn't intentionally get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't intentionally in that mode of thought. So, pregnancy happens, we're in the middle of a divorce, everything is erratic and unpleasant, and I was distracted from what was in front of me that was for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I had made the mistake of being too dependent on someone else for my happiness and well being.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even considered that I needed to be sovereign. I hadn't considered that. What if this person doesn't want to talk to me anymore? Or when they talk to me, I don't want to hear what they have to say. Now, what am I going to do? I hadn't even considered what the next steps were.
Yeah.
And so um, through this process, people who were around us saw how sick he had been.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, a lot of children were coming in because of environmental issues and because of the food and the synthetics in the food. A lot of children were coming in with extreme allergies.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't uncommon for me to hear people saying that their children were scratching themselves bloody, the babies, infants in the crib. And many, I would put him in a bassinet next to the bed. And I was so on alert that if he moved, I would wake up and look at him
Mm-hmm.
to make sure he wasn't hurting himself.
Right.
And so other people were having these things happening during the time when he was born as well. And those people, when they saw how beautiful he had recovered and how quickly too,
Mm-hmm.
within a year,
Wow.
he was healthy and beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and his strength had come back. They started to bring me their babies.
So let's so much value in that pre-pregnancy part of the story and the post-pregnancy part about you having to realize that you did this. And when you say you did this, not like, oh, it's on me, I'm to blame, let me be depressed because I did this, but that I had the power. So when you are interested in even maybe in your case, but in a lot of our cases, when all the evidence calls for us to have to face self, then is when we get the chance to finally be what we're capable of being because we no longer are going to give our power away to the other. So I could see it would have been very easy to immediately transition and start being very worried about what the doctors did or didn't do right, or what they were doing or not doing right that was keeping me sick, or what God did or didn't do, or why, what I mean, all of these different things. But the only way to really get into the take power or take control was to take responsibility. I feel like those two things are like
I don't want you to think I was courageous. I don't want you to think that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I just knew if I kept taking you to them, they were going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I
so
knew
this was just
that.
pure mother's
I just knew I was
intensity.
not, yeah, I wasn't smart. I wasn't gifted. I wasn't any of those things. And I was not with courage, but I was determined that you were born and you would stay alive.
Uh-huh.
And that developed into through research and through working. There wasn't really anyone to go to, but there were famous people who I had read about who were doing amazing and fabulous things, mostly with food, and many people who were um, kind of on the what would be considered the fringe, but that had people like Dr. Sebi, was the first person ever in the history of the United States to this point who had won a case against the Medical Association by saying his defense is that when we came here from Africa, they didn't bring our food.
Mm-hmm.
So what's here is not our food, so we can't exist on it. So I have to give people their food.
Right.
And so he was an herbalist, and all of that was extremely inspiring for me. I studied everybody, every book I could get, everything I could read. I read Elijah Muhammad's books. I read Dr. Sebi's book. I read all the things on all of the things that were available and there wasn't so much online, but anything I could get my hands on. And through that process, I understood that the food is not what we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I understood that the food could, and I had learned something, and even in traveling in Europe, when I had my first children in Europe, when I had gone to England afterwards, and they had asked me, "What did you do with the placenta? Did you plant it?" And I said, "No, was I supposed to?" And they said, "Yes, we always plant the placenta with a plum tree so that the child will have medicine for the rest of their lives. Because once Mother Earth knows the DNA, she will produce the right ingredients for them and their children always." So I had heard this, but I had not lived it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I had heard it, so it still went in with all the other things I'm researching. And then I had read about how people were working with nature spirits and growing food. And in the research, many things were tangential that I was very interested in all those things. And then I understood later as I grew a garden that if you walk through the garden, the consciousness of the things in the garden will identify what you need and will put it into your food. So this understanding of food elevated me beyond what people in the third dimension were thinking.
Right.
However, it's what the ancients knew. You're in Africa and you're eating a mango and you throw the seed on the ground. Then that mango grows a tree, and then all the people in the village eat from it, and they're all good. So it all made sense to me.
Yeah.
And so I understood the intelligence and the appropriate reverence that we should have for that which we eat.
Yeah. So really want to know more about the dynamic of, you said you wasn't courageous,
Yeah.
but we identified that there was a level of responsibility you had to take simply because I am a part of you. And it's a self-preservation at that point, essentially.
It's funny because you don't sit around being courageous.
Right, exactly.
You know,
You
an
got to step
event,
up to courage. Yeah.
yeah, an event happens, and then you have to make a decision as to whether you're going to allow whatever happens to happen or whether you're going to intervene, and however deep you're going to intervene. And that is courage. So I didn't know. In retrospect, see, I had courage.
Yeah.
I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that I didn't care how many times the doctor's office called me and wanted to give you shots. I didn't care whatever it was. I wasn't doing it. And, unless they were going to send somebody to my house.
And they still can.
And so we just disappeared off that spectrum. And then I, moment by moment, was able to get more and more nutrients in you. And every time you didn't get sick, it was a victory.
Yeah.
Every night that you didn't scratch yourself, it was a victory. Every time when you no longer had rickets and your legs weren't becoming deformed, it was a victory. So I became clear with myself.
Yeah. So listen, that's a big.
That's it.
I have a concept that you you want to find the opportunities to have victories in all areas of life regularly, because the way I see it, number one, you build up the surety that you are victorious as a person, that you have to see evidence of the courage or the strength or the victoriousness or any of the things, the attributes that you want to be, that you want to carry. There has to be evidence of it. Otherwise, it's just a fallacy, a lie, a belief, a wish at best. But when we have so many opportunities that we sometimes don't recognize our opportunities to be victorious, to claim just the opportunity to speak the truth in the opportunities that you have, which is in every time you speak, it's a victory, especially in a world of lies, because the consciousness is saying, no, 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 just say what'll get you out of this real quick.
Well,
Just
and the biggest thing is, I was lying to myself. I was thinking your dad should have made me happy and given me everything I wanted, so then I wouldn't be annoyed, and then I wouldn't be pregnant, then you wouldn't have been sick, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like I wasn't even in the equation.
Right.
Like I didn't have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
Boom.
Wow.
Like I had everything to do with it, and there was no correctness in the system that we operate in on either side. It
Right.
is not balanced, and it's not correct, and nobody is nourished appropriately. You know, I'm mad because he doesn't see that I need whatever it is I'm trying to make him do. And there is no, that's not how love looks. Like, you do for me so that
Right.
I'll be happy, and then I'll love you.
Right.
There's nothing
That's-
correct in that. And
Yeah.
all you have to do is have a child who's going to be in a relationship with someone else to have that clarity. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
and when you realize that my husband was someone's son, now I have a son.
Yeah.
And who was I to dictate to them what they should do? They weren't born to do for me. However, that is the way that in the time I grew up in, and I see it's in my clients now, this is part of the misunderstanding between the genders. There's a misunderstanding, and I was fully engaged in it, which was a lie. So I wasn't lying so much to someone else, I was lying to myself.
Yeah.
And when the situation presented itself that there was not going to be anyone else that was going to do what needed to be done for my DNA, I made you with my own organs. It was up to me to keep you going. And that wasn't even anyone else's responsibility. If I could find a community, if I could have found a person, if I could have found people who had more knowledge, that would have been great. But as it worked out, what was within me
Was
was
it?
brought
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
so that's what came forward. And then other people recognized it. So I didn't ever really start a business. I was part of a community where for 20 years I was the urban medicine woman.
Yeah.
And I got so much experience because there were over 700 people at any given time in touch with me about various things, including ghosts, including their children, including pornography, including their husbands being rude to them, and all of those things. So I got the best uh, experience as I was still healing my own family and healing myself and recognizing that I had to share with women, like, you are incorrect.
So
That's big.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, look, I have been incorrect, so I know it when I see it.
Right. Exactly. I'm speaking from my experience.
Right.
there's another story that we're gonna have to be sure to talk about within the next couple weeks concerning any you having to heal yourself with the cancer. But in the meantime, you were speaking about community. Aria, if you would,
Yeah.
share my mom the different people that saying hey, and let her say a little greeting back to everybody in there. I'm gonna go grab some the cards because I want to show the
Okay.
call for the truth card.
Also call for the truth.
But just yeah, India, just give.
Yeah, Dallas. Sorry, cannot pronounce her last name. Hello, all. I'm loving Madame Mystique Noir. She goes, facts. My North Carolinian grandma ate pickled pig feet too. We got Tavares of the Sun. That's that mother's love frequency. Hey, Tavares. And then we got Serenia and Lakesh. We got Cece. Stacy's in the building. Kay. Of course, we got in Lakesh Studio One. You already know.
Well, thank you all for coming, and this is such a wonderful opportunity to share these things with you. These are things that I have shared before, but not always in the same detail. And my levels of understanding are shifting all the time. In my lesser understandings, I had lesser understanding. So as I grow, as we all do, we're not finished and we don't know everything. And we grow into more understanding now as a grandmother of 9 grandchildren.
Wow.
and a mother of 4 children who are reproducing. And now I have the people they love who are now also my children. I have a greater bandwidth of understanding of what needs to be known at this time. And the biggest thing is that we must love ourselves enough so that we have love to give. If we are haters of ourselves, if we think we're nothing, if we're listening to a voice that tells us we're unworthy or that we don't deserve anything, that is a lie, and you need to address it appropriately.
Right.
Yeah.
The truth is we are all divine, and we come from that which is divine, and there is no escaping it. You know, we didn't come off the grill at McDonald's.
Right.
Like, come here for that and to be
Yeah.
that, and that's yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it's very important for everyone to know that the programming that you allow to run in your head is you allowing that program to run. You don't have to, and nobody owes you anything except the truth. And when you have that level of power, miraculous things happen.
So one thing I think that's very important to remember is that from a story like that, where you're talking about traditional relationship experiences, things to navigate, to work through, and then you talk about all of us, health, everyone is health is on everybody's mind and in everyone's life to one degree or another, whether it be because of the family ahead of us that came before us that are preparing for transition, that are dealing with stuff, or the ones coming up behind us, or our own health and wellness. All of these like regular life experiences. The, one of the biggest things I'm taking is that I'm seeing, although you didn't know it in the moment, we have so many regular life moments to claim power.
Yes.
We have so many like
Yeah.
the navigating everyday, like navigating being in a job that everything about the job is beating you down, pushing you down, whether it be the way you're spoke to, whether it be the environment, whether it be the health and the wellness of it, whether it be the commute to and from, even something like that. We have so many regular areas of our lives where if we see it, there are opportunities for us to claim power and step into another level of our own sovereignty and our own truth, even if that's incremental, even if that's something you build towards. However, rather than just subscribing to, I'm going to be at the level of my environment. So I'll just keep myself as a what we call regular person because that's what everything's pointing to me, showing me I'm regular. I'm still driving to this job. And so until something saves me or something happens that's gonna then I'll start being this greater, you know?
That is so key because that's how I felt about your father. I felt like, oh my goodness, here's somebody who's done all the things I want to do. He must be here to save me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't done anything to get myself anywhere.
Mm.
I I got on the plane after he bought the ticket.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like a lot of women though resonate with that.
And look what happened to me.
It's so interesting me now that I'm older. Like I loved like fairy tale Disney, literally like, oh, it's always like the man is saving the woman from the horrible stepmom and this and that. When it's like in reality, like, no, like you have the power within yourself to change any outcome.
Oh my
You don't
goodness.
have to wait on your, knight on a horse to come make that life for you possible.
And you have a son. How do you want him? You want him to, you want the women lined up?
Yeah. No, I do not.
So it's a different perspective.
It is.
But there's also, I remember in my shaman training, they asked me, what is the one thing that you would change? I'd like to wipe my brain of thinking anybody's coming to save me. Like, I want to wipe out that white horse.
Yeah.
I want to
You're
wipe
gonna
out.
clip that. You're gonna see that on the socials. That was good.
I
That was
don't
a
know.
good little nugget right there.
wipe that out of my brain that anybody is coming to save me. If I am saved, it will be on my own power, and then I will receive the benefit of that because I have been in situations where the other person, like, you didn't do nothing.
Right.
I did it. And if I remove it, you ain't got nothing.
You know what? That's something me and Arya talk about all the time. I show her like some of the victories that we have to claim or that we have the opportunity to claim that her and I are aligning on being committed to claiming are so important, not just for our own selves, but uh, we each thing that we conquer creates it clears a path for our children, which combined we have three, to not have to repeat that same
Absolutely.
experience. So if we can conquer it, not saying that they won't have, they are our DNA, so they might be have certain leans towards certain things that we also were attracted to and were to. However, it's going to be in the consciousness that it has been conquered, it has been won, and not only will we have the wisdom to guide, but since whenever has a parent told a child something, the child was like, "Oh yeah, you're actually right. Let me just start doing that from here on out." That's never going to happen. So having the wisdom isn't the only thing, but having cleared it energetically and in the consciousness out of our lineage's path, out of the way. Like, this is a hurdle that we all, every man that I know in my life, that from my generation, or not my generation, but my lineage, we've pretty much done the same thing around the same point of life and made certain same mistakes over and over. And I, with my son, am committed, and that he, even if the challenge comes up, there's enough from my dad, my older brothers, and myself of conquering and having cleared that it's easier for him to make the other decision or to do the other greater thing, you
What
know?
you're saying is so rich. It's beyond what you're saying. It's true, but it's epigenetics. It is true that as you change, the woman that I am now, and as I continue to grow and change, my DNA changes and then your DNA
Right,
changes.
exactly.
Because the living DNA that I have is your living DNA, which means that your children's DNA, they will not have to suffer some of what I have cleared and you have cleared.
Exactly.
Because, and those who have already passed on also are being freed. They come into our dreams saying, "Thank you for releasing me. Thank you so much." They're coming in, they're saying, "Oh, I'm so glad for the kind of sadness and suffering that has been in the lineage of the humanity that lives on the earth today. It is us who be clear it through our own DNA. The things that whatever comes up in you that goes against the status quo, and you have the ability and the energy to confront it, now you've changed it for all the ones that come after you.
Right.
That no one has to go through this. The whatever it is, because we are carrying 6 generations of our grandmothers on both sides of the family, and their pain and suffering, the lies and the things that they had to hide, all the things that went on, and we all know there's plenty of secrets. All of we are living in the time right now where this is going to come forward, the atrocities will come forward, and they will be rectified. That is the moment we are currently in, where things will come forward and be rectified.
So many things are going on mine, even experiences with the children right now that we're navigating, and how the their our children are seeing us kind of in this process of choosing who we're going to be and what we're going to be about and all this. However, they're so, like, I guess, energetically aware or sharp or whatever, that it's every time that I want to take an easy way out, even in a conversation with my 7-year-old daughter, I remember, like, no, like, this is being who I am, and being authentic to where I'm at in my journey and the truth of her. It's going to allow her to see and clear a path for her not to find herself in similar situations on either side of the spectrum, with men and or with who she sees as her role models is in women and what to and not to do because she can see what it affects. And I mean, the children, Stacy just said, like, these victories for our children are the goal. And it's for all of us that do, all of us are a child or a parent. So this applies to everybody, just so we're clear. Like, don't cancel yourself out of it if you don't have a child yet or not, or whatever it might be, because this is relevant to all of us. Everybody alive is a parent or a child, and at some point. So this is relevant. Too much, too much. I got a lot of actually other little um side stories that I want to talk about because I know so much.
I want to say something just on the topic of children. This is just a very small point, but a very big idea. Remember when you talk to your children or your parents, you're talking to someone you love. Stop for a moment, no matter what is going on, like, oh, I'm talking to somebody I love. Let me reframe myself. Let me,
Yeah, you got to tap into it. It takes, yeah, it's work.
it's like when you're talking to, I'm looking at you talking to your children, I'm thinking, okay, he's talking to them from the perspective, they will know it, they will get it, they will emulate it. That is what is needed, not all the interference patterns that were in the background.
Oh my God. You
Yeah.
know something? It just gives me think. So I remember uh a little more of, so even after my mom and my dad were divorced, growing up being a child, sometimes my dad spent, multiple weeks a month regularly in Africa. So not here in America. And from the time
I
I
know the
can
story.
remember, well, I'm not even gonna go that far into it. I'm just gonna say like the experience. But from the time I can remember, my mom was remarried. I had two great men in my life. I had my dad, who I loved and adored, and I had my father as well, who my mom was married to. And I felt like I I realize now how blessed I was. However, even then, I was I was just a happy guy. I had a little brother that I loved and adored. I was just happy as hell, and not even realizing the amount of distance that was between my dad and I, as far as physically, as far as time he spent away. It never ever in my mind one time ever was a thing that my dad was not in my daily life to the point. But my point of saying that is to say that I knew where he was, I knew what he was about, and everything was so elevated in the dynamic between my mom, my dad, my mom's husband, that there was never even a consideration that I was in lack because my dad wasn't around, and or that that it should be some other way. But the biggest point of that for me is that who he was, who my mom was, I knew I was loved. And that feeling and that clarity of that meant that that love was more powerful than any distance. That love was more powerful than any specific living situations or not thereof. And a lot of the things that we allow to suppress us or stop us from acting or moving on our truths because we think, oh, I can't be in a different state than my child, or oh, I can't go a month without seeing my child, or oh, it's going to look crazy if I get divorced at 33 years after I got married, or it's going to look this or that. All the things that we allow to dumb ourselves down or make us not act and be who we're supposed to be, there it's all fear based, it's all fake, because I know from experience that what's real is real no matter what, and can be
Yeah.
felt and can be. And there's another story for another day about my experience with my children and the time that, in order for me to stand in my truth, the time that I had to go without seeing them. But that's one thing that kept me going, that was always reaffirmed to me from my mom and other loved ones in my life, is like, the children know who you are. You don't have to give in or weaken yourself because of the fear that, oh, what if my children don't see me this month? They might forget that I'm their dad and they love me. No, that's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous to think now that I've done it. But in times leading up to it, it was like, what if I'm not there on my daughter's birthday? Who gives a
Yeah.
shit?
So, yeah, so I think that the takeaway I'd like to leave everybody with is your love is just right where you left it.
Mm.
That's beautiful.
If the person died, it's right there. All you have to do is follow the thread, and they're right there.
Yeah.
I still talk to his father, who has passed away.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time, and he's very aware of it. So that's another sense of security he has about it.
Yep.
You know, that he knows that that relationship still exists. The love is right where I left it.
Right.
I didn't want to be married to him no more,
Yeah.
but it's right where I left it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Okay,
know,
so before we go, I do want to, if you could, real quickly s- share what these are, and then say what inspired them, because I want to talk
oh,
about
okay.
some of the cool readings that Inlakesh Studio does.
All right, so these are the Call for Truth cards. This is the second part of the Call for Truth book. The book was written as a very small book during the time when we were in lockdowns. And the book reiterates over and over and over again exactly the story I just told you. Do not give your authority your power away to others and let them misguide you into making mistakes and doing things that you are not in harmony with because the crowd or the mob comes against you. Stand your ground because a hero may not live long, but a coward dies a million times. So, you know, that's really what the book is about. And this was the follow up. And I was helped with these by Thoth, who is the, so to say, the master of the cards. The cards have quotes from talks that I have given over many, many years. Each of these is a quote from a talk. And Tavares and I energetically identified from hundreds and hundreds of quotes that we had which quotes would be used in this deck of 52 that are not only are they labeled the call for the truth, which is relevant because if you don't call for the truth, it might elude you.
Mhm.
So calling for it weaponizes you to have it. So we call for the truth. And then each card has a color, and the color is a frequency that affects your health and affects all of creation. Each card has a geometric symbol, which is also how the mathematics of how and the harmonics of how the universe was created. And each card has a number that references and aligns with each color, each statement. So this was a labor of love. And we've had these now for several years. And cards, there are different kinds of cards, and people know about tarot cards and all different kinds of cards, animal cards and crystal cards. The idea of pulling cards is a ritual that has gone on billions of time on planet Earth. When a person sits with the deck and they have the true, clear intention to know the truth of whatever the question is, the ritual itself brings the truth forward. In this case, because it's not a picture that somebody interprets, which then becomes another whole level of
Right.
whether there's clarity or not, it says it
Yeah.
in very clear language what you're to understand. And then you have the other levels of intelligence from the geometry, from the numbers, from the color that give you more information. So the cards are extremely accurate. Um, and because they are some of the most powerful, highest vibrational utterances that I have made, they may be very helpful.
Yeah. So to wrap up, Inlakesh Studio One, if you go to inlakeshstudio1.com, which I've put in the chat as well, you can select a couple options of card readings. You can do something like a 3 card reading. It'll be a one-on-one session. It might run 20, 25 minutes or so with the call for the truth cards that are produced and made by Lao Tzu of the Sun. You can do a 3 card reading. You can do I think it's a 9 card spread like that. Have your one-on-one session. You can even get it recorded, get your notes from it. You'll have other medicinal recommendations to accompany the reading that you got as far as what you can take with you for homework. And if you are really about this clearing work and you want to work on some energetic work in your home, like let's say you want to get your property cleared, your home, or even somewhere where you spend a lot of time, you frequent often, you want to get, you're having you're having a moment where you want to look out for your family, you want to clear their home, your parents' homes, your home, whatever it might be, you can sign up for a property clearing, an energetic property clearing with Inlakesh Studio One as well. And she'll credit you whatever you did for your card reading towards your property clearing. So that's a nice little bonus because she's a part of the Sun family. So anybody who comes through or from us should definitely look out for. The card readings are fun, cool, not very expensive, not very time consuming, and they just get your ball rolling in this direction of not just calling for the truth, but then starting to pursue and act on the truth that we've found. And like we was talking about earlier, claiming our victories in our day-to-day lives. So I want to thank Inlakesh Studio One, of course, as always. You all will always hear from us about them. And I thank everybody for being a part of this conversation. We'll keep it going next week, 7 p.m. Eastern will be our live show. We do another live show on this channel at 12 noon on Thursdays, hosted by Tavares of the Sun. It is with Miss Lota as well. So tune in for that as well. And every other update, whether it be on a YouTube channel or you can follow us on Instagram, We Are of the Sun. Just be a part of the community. I appreciate everyone, and we will talk later.
In Lakesh and Veritas,
Inlakesh.
with honor, respect, and gratitude to you all. Thank you.